Hello everyone, and welcome to the hyena den sites. My name is Scott and I'm teamed up with Andrew on camera today. This termite mound behind me is usually the home of a clan of hyena, and it still is. It's just that the adults aren't home at the moment, so sadly whatever youngsters are about are hiding down within a few of the burrows and excavations into this termite mound. We heard a bit of hyena audio in this area earlier this morning, and that's why we came through to the area to see if we would get lucky. As we arrived, one subadult hyena came running past and has disappeared, and since then not much has happened. So we probably are going to continue, see what else we can find on this crisp and cold morning here in the Sabi Sands. It's about 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's wonderful to be back here after being in a more temperate climate of Durban, where I spent the last few days at a good friend's wedding. And even after being away for only about 4 or 5 days, it really is wonderful to get back and notice some of the changes that have happened, even in this very short space of time. I can see that the Djuma waterhole is continuing to decrease in water, and the bush is getting thinner and drier every day. I'm sure you've been having a good time with Jamie and Steph, as well as James. A lot of new faces, and not only new faces, but new styles and new techniques when it comes to guiding and sharing their experiences and knowledge with all of you. And like I said, I'm sure it's been wonderful having some new people to interact with on this live safari. Speaking of other people, James is out. He's teamed up with VM this morning, and I think James heard some lion audio last night somewhere up in the northeastern corner, or that area of Djuma. So he's headed up there, and I've headed in the opposite direction to try and cover as much ground as possible. Oh look, here's the one hyena. I'm just going to stop here and let Andrew rocket you in with the zoom. I'm fairly certain this was the same one that did come past the den earlier. We can assume that it's fairly young because its spots are very dark and black, and its coat looks in good condition. As they get older, their fur tends to become a little bit thinner and their spots become paler. Well, I wonder where it's off to. Possibly off towards the other den. Because the clan that uses the den where we've just been also uses another den in the direction that this individual's heading towards. And it's not uncommon for them to change up their den sites every couple of weeks or months. What do you know, little hyena? It would be wonderful if it was easier to follow them, but they tend to be less welcoming than the lion and leopard when it comes to following them. I'm not sure why, it's quite a strange one. When we're around the den sites, they're very relaxed with the vehicles. However, when we find them on roads, they often veer off and kind of avoid us where possible. But it would be wonderful to follow them, because I'm sure they would lead us into some interesting sightings with an incredibly strong sense of smell. Wow, this is really interesting. I'm going to have to position the vehicle so that Andrew can show you, but you can see a very distinctive drag mark where something's been dragged across the road, and there's some footprints in amongst the two. Those are hyena footprints. Oh, Andrew. And these hyena, like I was just saying, have got incredibly powerful senses of smell, and we need to try and follow these ones. Even though I think they are going to take us straight to the den site, we will follow through the bush. Hold tight, everyone. Well, they can obviously hear something or smell something that we cannot. And because you don't know exactly what it is, we're going to have to hurry along. Everything okay there?
Yeah, everything good.
All aboard still, only just. We may have lost signal, the antenna came down and now the antenna rope is broken. Leisurely speed while Andrew tries to do some running repairs. All good there, Andrew. Well done.
Okay, all good.
After driving on the smooth roads of a city for a few days, I guess I've lost track that when you do drive off-road here, it can be a little bit bumpy. Sorry, Andrew.
It's okay.
Okay, I can see some flashes of movements up ahead here. It would be wonderful to know what's going on. Hyena will fight between one another and other clan members for food. And I think we might be in the action here. What is going to be going on? I can see a few hyena. I think we might be in luck. What is happening here? Oh yes, I can see a carcass. I can see one of them feeding on something, I think. Just want to get you into position. There you can see what it is exactly. This is going to be incredible, everyone. There's a lot of hyena here. Stay on the left there, Andrew. That one's got a kill at its feet. It looks like maybe a baby buffalo or remains of one. So now let's watch closely. All of these hyena, I can count about 6, including the individual that's at the kill. And like I said, I think it's a baby buffalo. That's what would have been dragged across the road. And that's exactly what it is. It's chewing on the tail of this baby buffalo now. Aren't they such incredible animals, these hyena? Making off with the remains of this, what looks to be a young buffalo. Now, it's difficult to know exactly what's going on, but what we can assume is that this female that is feeding at the moment is probably one of the alpha females, but I don't recognize her. Looks like she's in very good shape. She's got her foot caught in the buffalo's hide, so she was battling to walk properly there. But there's a lot of unknown between the hyena we get in this area, and it could be different clans that we're seeing running about backwards and forwards. I think we're just going to need to reposition to stay with the action. Well, haven't we got lucky? I really didn't think we would find something that easily. And I think we've missed a lot of the social interaction that would have unfolded with these hyena when they first did come across one another. But I think they've established already who's who and who's in charge, and therefore the others are giving space to the more dominant members of this clan. And this is going to be beautiful. We've got the sun rising in the background. And one hyena vocalizing. Listen carefully. Listen. We're going to get Andrew to point the camera in the direction of the audio so that it's louder. You won't be able to see anything, but hopefully if the vocalization continues, you'll hear it more clearly. Again, it's very difficult to read into, so I'm going to ask Andrew to whip the camera back around. Some things we can't wait for, so we have to use quick camera movements. This is incredible. Absolutely awesome. I think there's about 8 or 9 hyena in this area, and they've moved off from where that one has just gone to smell, and we're going to try and stay with them, keep in the action. That audio was absolutely incredible. It's the closest I've been to hyena making a serious racket, so I'm glad you got to hear that. It's getting a bit thick in here, so we're going to have to think about the route that we take. This is crazy. The kill still keeps moving along, but I think what's going on here is a lot of interaction between possibly new males that may be coming into the area hoping to join a clan in which they can mate with, and all alpha females within the clan are beginning to wanting to take over from mothers or other generations. But there's certainly a lot of unrest within this clan, and I think they're trying to establish or re-establish and reconfirm dominance and hierarchy within this clan. There's so many hyena running around, it's hard to tell who's who. Even at the den site, we aren't exactly sure which hyena are which. I've just seen one young sub-adult run past, I think the oldest of the 4 cubs that we do see at that clan. But I'll be lucky to be watching this incredible interaction. Just going to try and creep forward a few meters. I think they have, for the time being, come to terms with who's who and what's what within the clan. Okay, this is going to take a little bit of maneuvering, but we will be there relatively shortly. I think there could be another den site that they use here, which would be really interesting to see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see 5 hyena at the moment, but there are certainly more around. Let's take a closer look. Listen to those jaws. Well, sorry we haven't been able to answer any questions up till now, but as you would have seen, there's been some incredible interaction. And Edward would like to know, will hyenas use their incredible endurance to try and hunt down their prey? And yes, Edward, they certainly will. Who knows, possibly they did run this young buffalo calf down to the ground, or they may have stolen it, but what they would have stolen it from is hard to tell, because it's unlikely that they would steal from lion in this area that may have been abandoned by lion, because there's not much left on it. So I'm thinking that is plausible. Although they could certainly have caught it themselves. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know? What I'd also like to know is how far has this carcass been dragged already since we saw the initial drag mark of it crossing the road that we pointed out briefly before 2 hyena came running past, following that same scent trail. Just heard an elephant trumpeting behind us. But like I said, this carcass may have been dragged several kilometers before getting to this point, so it'll be hard to backtrack to the original crime scene of where that young buffalo was killed. But as Edward did point out, they are animals of incredible endurance and can run down their prey for many, many miles at about 50 or 60 kilometers an hour, 30 or 40 miles an hour, so they can sustain a high speed for sustained periods of time. You may be able to hear a helicopter in the background. They're obviously doing some patrols from the air, so don't be surprised if that becomes more audible as the helicopter is heading straight towards us. There it is. Anyway, we're going to keep moving because we don't want to be too far away from the action. How are we going to make it down here? It looks a little bit steep. Very steep here, so I just want to make sure we don't capsize our vehicle, but this route here should be okay. Andrew just needs to hold on tightly. Got everything we need?
Yes.
Might have a great low angle with the sun in the background here. Let's see what we can do. We might be able to get Andrew into a wonderful gap here. No, almost. There's a few bushes in the way. How's that, Andrew? Kind of okay? We've also got a great low angle here, so This should make for some fun shots. We parked at a bit of an awkward angle here, making it difficult for Andrew to level off the camera. Now, while all that incredible behavior was unfolding, a few of you have noticed some interesting traits of the hyena. One of that being them holding their tails up high. And that is a sign of dominance amongst hyena. The hyena that hold their tail up high are said to be more dominant than the ones running off with their tail between their legs. But you do need to be cautious when you do read into those animal behavioral signs, because it is possible that one may hold up its tail feeling like it's in charge when there's no other threats around, but as soon as a more dominant individual arrives on the scene, it would immediately lower its tail. So that's something important to remember. There we go. This individual just lifted up its tail very, very briefly, and it's a youngster. I think it's another one of the youngsters. So these two cubs were also little black fur balls not too many months ago, and isn't the sunlight beautiful? You're getting some really great shots here. Well done, Andrew. So tail up is a sign of excitement, dominance when they are fighting. Look at the steam coming out of its mouth. Awesome. Okay, well, Anne on Twitter, thanks very much. Anne has realized that it looks like all three adults of the three different generations of cubs are here, and that's great to know. Thank you for letting us know that, Anne. As we've said in the past, it really would be wonderful to get a better idea of exactly who's who within this clan. But it can be very difficult, but with your help, it certainly becomes a little bit more easy. Well, speaking of dominance and who's who and the possible overthrow of a queen within this clan, Mafuta in California has asked, is it more likely for a female who is born into the title of future queen to take over the clan, or would the strongest female within the clan vie for that position? Good question, Mafuta. Interestingly, with hyenas, it's said that the daughters will take over from their mothers, so they are born into their hierarchical position. But there certainly will be competition between other females and other strong females, but technically it will be one of the daughters of the current queen that does take over. Even at the moment we can see really interesting behavior in how Only 1 or 2 of them are feeding on this carcass. They all certainly want to, that's why they are here. But you see they're being very, very cautious of the individual that does have the kill, or the remains of the kill. And again, all this hierarchical behavior is difficult for us to read into, or difficult for me to read into at least. There's quite a few sub-adults that we can also see moving around. These could be males that have come from different clans and are hoping to get mating opportunities with the dominant females within this clan. So that could also be adding tension to this already heightened and excited scenario. I think what we may be seeing here though is that they're going back to their old den sites. And won't it be nice to see if it's the mother with the smallest little cub that's the one that's carrying that carcass. Now some of you may have noticed other termite mounds as we drive past. There's one right here with holes in it. And Georgianne in Illinois has also noticed these termite mounds and would like to know if that wasn't one of their den sites. Not that I've seen, Georgianne. They could use any one of these termite mounds that we drive past. But it looks like these are not used by hyena, and they could be heading back to one that they have used more commonly. What the hyena could also be doing is taking that carcass to a little water source where they will put the carcass into water, a small water hole, and that way it kind of saves it and stores it like a pantry, and it also softens the bones and skin over time, making it easier to feed on. We're going to try and catch up with the hyena in the front of this clan though. It's got the kill and it's quite far ahead of us. And while we do that, we will send you across to James. He's got something that he's been spending a lot of time with, waiting for these hyenas to calm down. So enjoy, and we will see you shortly.
Good morning everyone. It is a glorious African morning as Viam has just shown you the sun, and while you have been enjoying the marvelousness of those hyenas and their devouring of some fairly, sounds like a nasty tasting buffalo meat, we have been spending the dawn in the company of a beautiful herd of elephants. They're off in some fairly thick bush at the moment, and I don't want to disturb them too much. We may drive in there just now, but they're feeding sort of parallel with the road and very gently sort of eating their way in this very peaceful dawn. It's lovely to have you on board with us, and if you can, if you do hear the odd sound of a helicopter going past, there is a game count going on at the moment, which is a fairly standard thing that they do probably twice a year. It'll be the Sabi Sands game count, and the chopper will fly up and down in a sort of grid pattern, and they'll count all the mammals that they can see from the chopper. So if there is a little bit of disturbance from that, I'm sorry about that. It has been over our heads for the last sort of 15 minutes or so, but has moved off to the east for now. And just remember, any questions or comments, we do love to hear from you. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV. Anything you'd like to ask, remember there are no stupid questions, there are plenty of stupid answers, some of which I've given myself on any number of occasions. But I shall attempt to answer any questions you have with relative intelligence. Should we go forward a bit?
Yes, please.
We're just going to go a little bit forward and see if we can't get a slightly better view. Does that work for you?
Yeah, good.
Now, it's quite thick in here, everybody, so I don't want to, I'm not going to blast in here just yet. There is a nice clearing just slightly to the east of us now, and I'm hoping they might go towards that. But of course, this time of year, the clearings are only full of grass that is fairly inedible to elephants, and so they'll stick around pretty much in the thick bush, not necessarily showing us their best sides at the moment. The temperature is probably a fairly warm 14 or 15 degrees even, and a bit warmer with the new sun shining on us. And you can see that there's no cloud in the sky, and while you're not looking at the sky right now, you can tell that from the way that the golden dawn light has turned fairly white almost immediately. It doesn't stay that golden color when there's nothing to diffuse the light in the air. Lovely dawn chorus going on around us. Here's some robins, some francolins, some drongos, breasted barbet, some hornbills, waxbills, Sabota lark, crombecs. Oh, it's really quite a lot going on. Some starlings. So it was noticeable immediately to me yesterday when I first arrived that the dawn chorus has just become slightly louder than it was when I was on leave. So that was about 18 days ago that I left, 19 now, and it's immediately apparent to me that it has become louder. Right, I think we're going to sneak a little bit forward and see if we can't come in and around towards the elephants. There's a big log in the way here, so I can't sort of drive in. Well, I could probably, but I might lose VM off the back, and he gets very irritated when we do that for some reason. So we're going to go forward a bit and then head around and in. Right, VM, hold on tight. The first elephant we saw this morning was a young bull, and he was particularly displeased to see us. And I suspect it had something to do with that chopper. You know, that's very kind of unnatural sound for them to hear that thing up and down in the air, and it makes a tremendous noise and tends to get them a little bit upset. They're much more peaceful now. So they should be off there. We can just see them through there. This is what we call a seep line. So there's quite a thick stand of terminalia or silver cluster leaf trees. But let's see if we can get in there. Quite difficult to pick a definite direction as to where they're moving when they're feeding like this. Lovely smells of the morning in the grass as we sort of crush it a bit. Hello Hello, Samantha in Oceanside, California. I will try and answer your question while we drive through here. What's the aerial there? You want to know, do all African elephants have tusks? And the answer is no, not all of them, but they should. What that means, Samantha, is that the Indian elephant, for example, the Asian elephant, the females are tuskless. But the African elephants all potentially have tusks, but there are the odd example of elephants that are born without tusks, and then some will lose their tusks. But that's very uncommon. We had spent a long time yesterday evening, I'm not sure if you were with us, watching a herd of elephants with a matriarch who's tuskless. I'm not sure how much closer we're going to get to them in here, so we may just have to wait for them to come into a slightly clearer area. Right, so I think while we sit here in this fairly impenetrable thicket, we're going to go back across to Scott, who has managed to catch up with the recently deceased buffalo and its hyena transporters, and we will just wait and see what these elephants do. So I'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. And finally these hyena have stopped. It's nowhere near the other den site that they use, and the one individual that has carried it quite some distance has now decided to start feeding on it. And there's about 4 or 5 other hyena nearby that are just watching intently, maybe waiting for their turn if they get lucky. So, well, they got a little bit of a fright, so I'm not sure what it is exactly that startled them. And Dr. Debbie would like to know, where is all this action currently unfolding? We are just off Rebecca's Road, between Rebecca's Road and the quarantine clearing, so not an easy place to point out. I haven't had any memorable sightings here, but we are kind of equidistant in a triangle between the 2 den sites that they use and quarantine. Well, that little fright they got, I'm not sure what it was from, but it's caused them to carry on moving, so we will do the same. And thanks so much for all the kind words and welcome back messages that you have sent through. With all the action that's been unfolding, I've failed to find the time to acknowledge all of those very kind updates and messages. Let's just stop here. Hopefully the hyena will stay for a few seconds like that. No. I haven't spent too much time in this area. It might get a little bit thick, but we'll stay with them for as long as we can. I fear though that this may be the end of the road, but what is not the end of the road is this little fork-tailed drongo. It's following us along, hoping to feed on insects that we chase up, and isn't this a wonderful close-up? It's twitching with excitement, probably urging us to go on and chase more insects for it. And it's literally been landing just a few meters away from the vehicle as we drive along, keeping us company while following these hyena. But like I say, this area is getting a bit too thick for us to continue following these hyena. It has been great fun. What it may require us to do is a walk through this area at some stage to try and establish if there is another den that they could be taking that carcass to. And from this close-up of the fork-tailed drongo, we're going to send you back to James, who I'm told is also in some quite thick bush. So you may have one or two more glimpses of the elephant for you. And I hope you get lucky there. We'll see you later, hopefully with something else.
Okay. Hello everybody. We haven't moved since you last saw us. We're in some pretty thick knobthorn bush, but the elephants have come a bit closer to us, so that's really nice. And they're just feeding fairly noisily now, breaking things and eating bark and chomping on roots and picking the odd leaf that's left. And I think they'll probably head down to the water at some stage. I'm thinking around Gallagher. Carol and Dr. Debbie want to know, is that elephant perhaps pregnant? Carol and Dr. Debbie, I was actually thinking precisely the same thing just before you came back to join me. I think she could be. She could well be. She does seem, yeah, you know, there's that swelling at the top around her loin region, and she could be pregnant. I don't think she's about to give birth like the matriarch we saw last night. She was much more pregnant, but yeah, that could well be a pregnancy that we are witnessing now, which would be quite exciting. I've never seen an elephant birth, and I really would like to see it. Apparently it is something to behold, especially the sort of celebration that goes on in the rest of the herd as it happens. She's a big cow, that. She's sort of in her prime. I'd put her at about 25 years. Well observed, Carol and Dr. Debbie. Dr. Debbie, are you in fact a doctor? So, Patty and Jean, thank you for your comments and your questions while we're looking at these elephants feeding here. You just asked me about my little trip to the Russian Far East, and did I see the elusive Amur tiger? Patty and Jean, I did see one, but it was in a rehabilitation center. It was an injured animal, and it was in a very large enclosure in a rehab center. It's not going to be able to be reintroduced to the wild. They do have some very good programs there, though, for reintroducing tigers to the wild, but this one was injured. They are magnificent beasts. I mean, they are huge. much taller than any of the big male lions that we have here. But really impressive and beautifully colored animals. And then, Gene, I think you asked about birds, and did I see any birds? Yeah, I did, but you know, the diversity of birds is not large in that area. I mean, there are lots of sparrows and and feral pigeons, like you see in most places, and all the villages they had. And the villages are fairly small, rural areas, lots of sparrows and the odd feral pigeon. And then there were plenty of crows and one or two raptors. And then there are some birds even that come back here. I saw a steppe buzzard, which is a bird that comes back to Africa during our summer and sort of winters in the Russian Far East and various other parts of Russia. So not a huge plethora of birds, the odd wagtail and one or two others, but not a huge number. Very thick sort of forested bush. It's not very easy birding country. But lovely to see some of the familiar African species over there. And particularly astonishing that they can fly there, given how long it took me to get there in a, jet-propelled aeroplane. So I think as the dry season progresses, we will find that these elephants do a huge amount more feeding in the thicker bush because there's very little in the way of greenery around the open areas. Hello, Terry in Santa Ana. A question about age. Nice one. Do males or females live longer than each other? I think you'll probably find, Terry, that the females live slightly longer than the males, and the reason for that being that they do live in a herd. They live, so the safety is probably greater in the herd than it would be with the bulls, who often live on their own. And as far as I'm aware, the bulls do fight with each other, and so they will injure each other and cause each other a sort of injuries that will definitely slightly reduce longevity. In captivity, I suspect they probably live almost to the same age. I think life is just slightly more violent as a bull elephant compared with a cow. I'm sure you can hear the chopper going over now. It is an important part of sort of conservation efforts in the area to count what's going on. You really need to know the fluctuations and changes in population size. And a chopper is a very effective way of doing it out here during the winter, because there's no foliage on the trees, and so it's quite an easy way to count the animals. And they even are able to count things like duiker and steenbok from a chopper there. You have to have a fairly strong stomach to do it, though. I remember being on a game count once, and they eventually had to leave me in the bush because I became slightly nauseous. Hello, James on Twitter. You make the comment that it would seem that everything here is either about to give birth, trying to get pregnant, or trying to get something pregnant. James, that is exactly how it works in nature out here. Breeding is the #1 priority of all animals out here, the second priority being food. A bit like some human populations, I suppose. But certainly breeding is a major priority, and as we go towards the springtime, I mean, we're not there yet, but as we go towards the spring, so there will definitely be an increase in obvious pregnancy in a lot of the animals that we have around here. The elephants are now moving a little bit. They're still feeding. They do like this knobthorn thickets like the one we're in now, because the bark is particularly rich in nutrients. And so, I mean, these knobthorn trees that we're parked in amongst, that you can see probably around us, would normally be fairly straight tall trees, but this is obviously a pretty rich area, and so the elephants have modified the structure of the trees to the sort of fairly, what shall we say, broken thicket. And it's wonderful to hear, they're not doing it now, but it's wonderful to hear the thorns scraping along their skins, sort of leathery, hollow leathery scrape. And, I mean, this is an area that you would struggle to walk through without doing yourself an injury. Just got another elephant over to the left there. It's quite a small herd, I'd say, only 5 or 6 individuals. We can only see 3 right now. I think there's a young bull tailing them or living on the outskirts we saw earlier this morning, and he wasn't very happy to see us. I can see 4 now. It's always so nice when they approach us rather than us having to approach them. I mean, that's obviously, when I say approach, I don't mean at high speed.
This elephant looks like it's crying.
Ah. Viam's looking at the tears that seem to be flowing from the elephant's left eye there. And I don't think it's actually crying. Thank you, Viam. I think what you'll find is that she's probably got a little bit of an infection, or perhaps one of these knobthorns has hooked her a little bit in the eye. Can you see any others if they're doing the same? There's one actually to the right that's also doing the same thing. Can you see that one there, Viam? Also the same left eye. And the right eye. There, you can see it now. It's quite interesting, actually. I wonder if it doesn't have something to do with the fact that they are walking through this very thick kind of thorny bush, and maybe their eyes get the odd hook from the thorns. But their tongues certainly don't seem to mind. I mean, they wrap their trunks and then their teeth and tongues around the most horrendously sharp thorns. A nice comment from Inga, who seems to have witnessed an elephant birth. Inga, you're very lucky if you have. And she just describes it as the elephant falling plop out onto the ground, and it being a remarkable sight to see, with the rest of the herd standing around for protection, which of course is what they do. A lot of other animals have to sort of leave the herd and go and live in a go and sort of retreat into some thick bush where they can find relative safety. Whereas the lovely thing about elephants is that they protect the mother and any youngster that's given birth to. A young elephant weighs about 100 kilograms of newborn, which is quite astonishing. I mean, that's a huge mass. And it will stand fairly soon. But they're very uncoordinated. They're not quite like an impala when they stand up, able to run in sort of half an hour. So the herd does need to be very protective of the little one. There's a lot of wood eating going on here. I can see another one off way to the left there, so probably about 5 or 6 so far. Hello, Reese on Twitter. Nice question. What areas have the largest populations of elephants? Reese, as far as I understand, the largest concentration of elephants is in Chobe National Park in Botswana. And as far as I'm aware, Chobe, which is probably about, well, I mean, it's an open system, so to say that it's, you know, to compare it with Kruger is difficult. But there are about 60,000 elephants there. And apparently, I haven't been there myself, but traveling along the Chobe River, you are just inundated with thousands of elephants. So if you want to see lots of elephants, that's the place to go. Chobe in Botswana. The Kruger probably at the moment has about 15 to 20,000, I would say. I haven't seen the latest census figures. Fiam, can you see the crombeck there, just hopping around in the tree there? We very seldom see them quite so easily. There's a long-billed crombeck, which is a little leaf-gleaning, insect-eating bird in the knobthorn tree there, with a very short tail, and they're not often out in the open like that. Quite nice to see. Obviously now hiding. It's actually something of a bird party sort of starting to develop around us. Go ahead, Scott. Okay, copy. I'll go there right now. Thanks very much. Everybody, very exciting news. Scott has just heard that a cheetah's been found around here, not far from here at all. So I think we're going to try and get out of here and head to that cheetah. I'm just going to find out if I can go there. Legs, do you copy, Legs? Good morning, Lex. May I make my way there? Copy. Thanks very much. I'll be there in a few minutes. Right, let's go and see if we can see a cheetah. I haven't seen a cheetah here yet, so that's extremely exciting. Sorry, elephants, we have had a wonderful time with you, but I'm afraid we're going to head away right now and see if we can see a cheetah. I think while we make a bit of a noise and bump around, we're going to go across to Scott and just get an update from him, and hopefully when I next see you, we will be in the company of Achyonyx jubatus, the famous spreedy spotted cat of Africa. See you now.
Well, I'm not sure what James has told you, but you am sure aware that he needs to get somewhere quite important, and if you're planning on going somewhere, don't, because there's an animal that we don't see very often that James is trying his best to get to. There's no guarantee that it'll be there when he gets there, but there is a good chance. And I'm a little bit jealous that he was closer towards that animal than we were, so he gets right of way. And I've only seen one in 7 or 8 months of being here. So that gives you an idea of how rare this animal is to see here. We lost the hyena and have eventually made it back onto a road, and now we're just going to continue driving about, seeing what we can find. Oh, sorry, last station, go again. We were chatting earlier about the likelihood of the clan of hyena that we saw with the remains of that buffalo, whether they would have stolen it or caught it for themselves. It could have been either of the two, but David would like to know, how would a hyena's hunting methods differ from that of, I guess, lion and leopard, two of the apex predators that we know a little bit more about their hunting techniques. Hyena don't need to rely on stealth, David. They can rely on their stamina and endurance to run prey down over many kilometers. So once they, let's take this buffalo for example, once they got the buffalo on the run, if they kept pressuring them, the herd would continue to run and run, and the weaker members of the herd would naturally drop back, or young members who get tired, and the hyena will then tumble them over often or bite onto them and pull them down, and then quite often start tearing them apart. They don't suffocate their prey like lion and leopard will try to do, and cheetah. So kind of similar to wild dogs, once they tumble over their prey that is often exhausted by the time it does get knocked over, they will often just rip it to pieces. So not a good way to go to be hunted by a hyena. I'd rather be taken by a lion or a leopard personally. But a lot will depend on not only the prey that they are hunting, David, but also the area that they're in, because hyenas will act differently in different parts of Africa, even though it's the same spotted hyena that we are talking about here. Some move and rove in big clans, specifically seeking out large prey that they can hunt down, whereas most often in the Sabi sands, hyena will move alone and possibly even hunts alone or in pairs. So you can experience different behavior from the same species within different parts of Africa. Beautiful bird just over my right shoulder, a little white bird, and I hope it sits there. It's one that I love to try and show you, but they seldom stick around. There we go. Look at that bright yellow eye. Oh, they're coming closer to us. This is going to be great. These are white-crested helmet shrikes. You can see that little white tuft of feathers on its forehead possibly. And you do get different variations of these throughout Africa, some with more prominent crests. And they fly around in small family flocks, so there was about 5 or 6 of them there. 2 of which will be a monogamous pair, the parents, and they'll have offspring from previous hatchings that will help to raise and look after future broods. So they do rely on these little family flocks, and it's not uncommon. There's a few different bird species that will fly in these small family flocks. Others will move off from their parents as soon as they are old enough to, but others will hang around for a few years before they head off and start their own family. And this is an example of one of those. And still on the topic of hyena, there was so much that was happening earlier with the awesome hyena sighting that we had that we couldn't answer many of your questions. But Angie would like to know, will hyena fight over their prey and carcasses just like lion will? And yes, Angie, they certainly will. What we saw this morning was a good example of how certain members will be dominant, and therefore others will respect that dominance and not even attempt to steal from the dominant female. But it is certainly not uncommon for hyena and all carnivores to fight over potential prey. Andrew's just spotted a pretty bird. It's going to be tricky to see, but he's going to go for it. It's a woodpecker, I think. No?
Yeah, it is. I think we need to go a bit forward.
I think he can see a different one to me. The one that I saw flew off. So we may have been on the wrong spot there.
He's up there.
Sorry?
He's up there.
I saw the one fly off. So unless there was another one, I think we are out of luck.
No, there he is.
Oh, well done. Look at that. You'll see a few bright higher up if you can. It's still going up. There, oh, there it goes. You may have seen a little tuft of red on the head of that cardinal woodpecker. Well spotted, Andrew.
Thank you.
And it sounds like James is approaching the cheetah and would like you to jump on board and join him for the arrival. So over to James, and we will see you all later.
Hello everybody, we're not in there yet, but we're just in and around where the cheetah is, apparently just around here somewhere. So we're going to just be patient with me if you don't mind. We're going to go in and stop moving every so often and just listen for if there's another vehicle with her. Just in here somewhere. Just go a bit forward. Hold on. Hold on, everybody. Just going to turn off again. Quite a long way from us, I'm afraid. Lex, do you copy this? And Lex, are you still mobile? Can you hear them, Bill?
Yeah.
There. Yeah. Alright, hold on everybody. They're a little bit further away than I thought, but at least the animal is moving into Gari, or into Djuma, so that's good. we should be able to see her. Or him, I'm not sure if it's a her or a him. Yeah, Alex, I did get you. You need to be further south of Portugal. Yeah, don't run, rock. Ooh, big hole. Big hole. Sorry about that, everybody. Remove your dentures.
You fall off the bed.
Okay, copy. So shall I head west? Turn off here. She's actually over there, towards that impala. Copy that. More jump. Sorry about this, everybody. Hold on. Watch out, impalas. There's a cheetah around. Yumbi, watch your head. Watch heads, everybody. Copy, thanks. Okay, they can see us. Do you have any sight yet?
Neither.
Should be just over there. There they are. Okay, they're just in front of us there. Thank you. Right. And I can actually just see the cheetah too. The cheetah's in front of them there.
Okay, got a visual of the cheetah.
We've got the visual of the cheetah. Okay. I'm going to go straight in here. Now, cheetah, normally we won't be able to get quite as close to the leopard, so I've got to be fairly careful. Big hole.
Negative. Okay. I think it changed course.
They're looking over there. There it is. There.
Right,
Just to the left of the just to the left of the termite mound. Wonderful. Isn't that great? It's my first Djuma cheetah. Fortunately heading slightly east towards the boundary, but at least we've got a view. Sorry, Viam. I'm going to carry on moving now You can see how the other vehicle, I don't know if you probably can't see it, is a very experienced ranger there, and he's keeping quite a distance from the cheetah, just to be as sensitive as possible. They're obviously endangered, and so we don't want to put any pressure on them that might cause them any sort of stress. Nice clearing up off to the left there, and I'm going to head towards that. And Reese, a nice comment from you, absolutely correct. Don't see cheetah very often here because it's not particularly open. That's one reason, and the other reason is that they are quite dependent on lion numbers. Lions put a lot of pressure on them, and so where there are a lot of lions, you often don't find a lot of cheetah, and there are quite a few lions here. There, unfortunately, is the boundary. Can you see the cheetah?
Yes, push it to the boundary. It's right to our right. Alright, so it's coming to the pier now. I was just parking right just on there. It should be coming out.
There it is. It's right in front of us there. I'm going to go a little bit forward here. It's right there. Just through here.
Got it.
Isn't that beautiful? Oh, that's just so special to see. Just taking a little bit of a jog now. Now walking. But now, you saw that little jog that it's having, I think is indicative of it's just not quite comfortable with us, and that's the reason that Lex there, whose vehicle you can just hear now, highly experienced guide, and he'll be just keeping his distance, and so we're going to do the same. Isn't that wonderful to see? Unfortunately, it does look like he's going to try and cross to the east. It's a little bit sad. But just so special to see. And they like this cut line, of course, because it is quite open. It's cut as a fire break. There he is. Thank you so much. Now, apparently Jamie saw one around here the other day, and there's some few questions as to whether this could be the same one. It's quite likely. They aren't territorial like leopards, though. You know, their distribution is so dependent on other predators. But you know, given the number of cheetah there are in the area, I would suggest that this is probably the same one, given where it is now. Bjorn, can you still see it?
Yes, it's very obstructed.
Okay, I can see going onto the termite mound there. I'll just sneak forward. It's seen something. Oh, look at that golden color. Oh! Oh, that's just beautiful. So quite possibly the same one that Jamie had the other day. sneak a little bit forward, yeah. Heading east now, which is not very exciting. Coming out into the open. Beautiful. That is a male. It is a male, so if Jamie saw a male, which I think she did, that could well be the same one. So, in terms of territoriality, they will be territorial, but only in the absence of other predators. So their scent marking doesn't last as long as something like a leopard or a lion's scent does. Isn't that beautiful? And you can see so much slighter than a leopard. I mean, the comparisons are inevitable. But so much slighter, more dainty, and more nervous, you'll see, looking around constantly. Thank you very much. Sorry to disturb your drink stop the other day. Now, I'm afraid crossing out of the reserve now, which is a little sad, but it's had a wonderful view. I'm just not going to drive. I want to come back and look at the tracks. Some beautiful cheetah tracks here, so we are unfortunately not going to be able to follow in here. But I'll show you the tracks, which are quite different from a leopard's. Maybe he'll walk parallel with the cut line here. We'll stay with him for absolutely as long as we can. Listening, you can see, and looking all the time. There he goes. He's seen something. Something's running. Something's running in front of him. I can just hear it. I suspect a steenbok or something like that probably saw him. And I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that's probably going to be the end of our sighting. Maybe go up the termite mound, Liam. Hello, Jody. Exactly as I was sort of thinking to myself, much more vigilant than a leopard, or I mean seemingly so, much more, not more alert, more nervous, and certainly walks with a lot lighter gait. It's a lot lighter, slighter build. You know, a leopard is a big, is a sort of powerful, stocky animal, whereas a cheetah like that is a lot more slight and almost elegant in some ways. Beautiful. Wasn't that wonderful? Let's just go quickly back and look at the tracks. I'll do some very nice ones there. I'll show you the difference between them and a leopard, which is often people ask the difference between them, and it really is quite distinct.